Welcome back to the DNA Pest Control Podcast. Daniel.
And Aaron.
Perfect. All right. It's warming up. And for us, warmth means bugs.
It's a great time.
Great time. We had a great rainy season, very wet, a lot of snow up in the mountains, which is great for us too. But with that happening, it brings on a lot of bugs. And one thing that we deal with so much and so often is cockroaches. We don't get to talk about it much. Well, we do talk about it on the podcast, but out in the real world between technicians, depending on what you do, you may not deal with cockroaches as often as others.
Sure.
Right? I mean, if you're in multifamily units, you may deal with cockroaches more frequently.
Mm-hmm.
On the residential side, hit and miss, depending on what you do, unless you're their cockroach specialist.
Sure.
But on our side, in California at least, we're starting to see a resurgence of, some of the Turkestan roaches. Oriental roaches kind of died and went away, but the Turkestan roaches really come in and kind of disrupted, really everything. I mean, it's huge now. I mean, it's so much more than what it used to be. But today we want to talk about cockroaches.
Yes.
And what it is and what's coming, what information is actually coming from PMPs. So Aaron, I'll let you take it away.
Absolutely. So thank you, PCT, for giving us another one of these beautiful reports. So today we have our cockroach report from 2023. So we're going to go through basically a few questions that they interviewed a big handful of PMPs in the industry that deal with cockroaches. First one, very straightforward, is cockroach species to service calls in the percentages.
Yes.
So they break it down to cockroach species, the largest percent of service calls. Largest one, you have German cockroaches at 70, American cockroaches at 16, smoky brown at 6, Oriental at 3, and then it drops down Turkestan, Asian, wood at 1, and then 2% other / no answer.
Yeah. I think it goes back to who you're asking. And I think the study is 172 people.
Yeah, it's weird because at the bottom here it says about the survey, it's a sample of 4,703 pest control owners, operators, technicians, blah, blah, blah. But then under that specific one, it's 172
of
172 respondents.
Yeah, so I look at it as the 172, it all depends on who they ask, right? Because if they asked us, I would say it's neck and neck with German cockroaches and Turkestan cockroaches.
Sure.
Because in the summer, Turkestan cockroaches are everywhere.
Reign supreme.
Oh, yeah, especially residential accounts. I mean, it's huge. Now, you talk about commercial accounts, multifamily units. Okay, German cockroaches win. Those are going to be the dominant ones. But across the board, I would say it's probably 50-50 that we deal with.
Yeah, and it's so true. It depends who you ask. You ask, the guy we have doing apartment complexes solo. He's like, of course it's going to be German.
Yeah.
We have a guy who just does residential. Of course he's going to say Turkestan.
Yeah. Yeah, honestly, that's exactly what it is. So it depends on who you ask. So that's what I think for us, at least here in California, I'd say it's probably about 50-50 depending on what you're doing. But it would be 50%, German cockroach, and then 50% Turkestan. Now, that's dependent on the time of year too.
True.
Because it goes, Turkestan are non-existent in the winter. Unless there's a spike in heat, we don't see them.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, they go away. They're done. Now, ants stay dominant, but cockroaches are gone.
Yeah. So that's a good point, which we'll get into the seasons later. They actually have a point on that.
Yeah.
But the next segment is what is the most difficult to control. So, surprise, surprise. German cockroaches at the top of the list at 92%.
Yep.
I don't know how these percentages break down because they don't equal 100. But anyways, American at 65, Oriental 43, brown banded 34, smoky brown 28. You have Asian and wood at 22, Turkestan Australian 6, and then field, flying, Florida woods, and Suriname at 2.
Yeah.
What's your take?
Well, I mean, cockroaches in general are difficult to take care of.
Mm-hmm.
All the other ones we don't deal with.
Yeah.
So the bottom, literally like half.
8, 9.
Yeah, 8, whatever it is, however many there are non-existent that
Sure.
we deal with, on a consistent basis.
Mm-hmm.
Main ones we deal with are Turkestan. They were Oriental until the Turkestan kind of came in and took them out. German is the next, and that's it.
Yeah.
So I mean, we have 3 American roaches we deal very little with.
Very little.
Those are going to be the sewer roaches, and they pretty much stay in the sewer.
Mm-hmm.
It's pretty rare that they're going to get into a restaurant. Even downtown, it's not very often.
Which is surprising.
Yeah. So my take is I don't think German cockroaches are very difficult to take care of. I think they're easy as long as you have a program.
100%.
Are they the most difficult across the board with all PMPs? Absolutely.
Yeah.
We're lazy.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, when you're going to be lazy, it's going to be difficult.
Yeah. And that's where my brain went to. It's like, yeah, if you're going to be doing the same thing for each pest, of course it's going to be the most difficult, but there's steps and there's protocols that we have.
Yeah. But that's the thing where I say Turkestan roaches are probably more difficult than German. And
They can be.
Well, the only reason why I say that is because we can't control them.
Yeah, we can manage them.
We can manage it, but
Keep
we
them at bay.
can't get rid of them off of a property.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, people still see dead ones in the garage every once in a while.
Yeah, that's a good point.
German cockroaches, we go in, we can eliminate them from a house.
Mm-hmm.
That's easy.
Right.
I mean, we can guarantee it.
It's done.
It's done, and they don't see them again.
Yeah.
I can't guarantee that with a Turkestan roach.
No, I see what you're saying.
So that's where I say depending how you're looking at it, but in the wintertime, yeah, I can get rid of Turkestan roaches.
No problem.
Naturally, because it's cold, they're going to go hide, and then we don't deal with them anymore, right?
The best tech ever.
Exactly, yeah. But German cockroaches, they don't go away in the winter, and they don't, go away in the summer. But I can treat the house. I can make sure they never come back.
Yeah.
Well, not that they never come back, but they're gone.
Yeah.
After my treatments. Past that, I mean, it's someone who reintroduces them. But if they don't ever reintroduce them, they never have them again.
They're done. Yeah.
They're done.
I understand that point of it.
So,
Cool.
Yeah, I mean, let us know what you guys think.
That's true. Again, this is going off of whoever they interviewed, so we want to know what you guys think as well.
Yeah.
Next topic, we have expected change in revenue. Mm-hmm. How do you expect the percentage of revenue generated by your location's cockroach service control to change in the next year? 48% increase, 47% said remain the same, 5% decrease.
I love hearing these things because it's like, and I won't say our listeners are this way because, they're very ambitious. They like what they're doing. They're putting in the time. They're putting in the effort. Mm-hmm. But it's always funny to see that it's like majority of it, 47% plus the 5%, okay? 52% are like, it's going to stay the same. No hope.
Mm-hmm.
We're good. We're not growing. We're staying the same, or we're going to go down.
Yeah.
It just amazes me. It's like, why did you even get into business if you didn't want to push for more? But I get it.
Yeah, and maybe there's some variables we're not looking at. Maybe they're interviewing I don't know why they'd interview like a wildlife company or a company that doesn't really deal with multifamily homes or, companies that only do residential. But even then it's like, I don't understand how you would expect it to stay the same or decrease.
Yeah, it's just the stagnant. It's just the laziness.
Yeah.
It's the comfortability. I don't want to move. I don't want to grow. I don't want to be more. But for us, it's going up.
Yeah.
That's no doubt. But naturally, it's going to go up because we're pushing for more, and we're pushing for apartments, and we're pushing for commercial buildings. We're pushing for more residential. So as we're growing, naturally, that's going to go up and up and up and up.
Sure.
So yeah, for us, it's up.
Definitely.
But I always laugh when I hear that stuff. It's like, it's going to stay the same.
Yeah.
It's like, what?
Off of that, expected change in revenue, there's a little bubble that says 96%, big letters, of PMPs offer cockroach services?
Yes.
Good. I hope you do. I hope the other 4% jump on board as well.
Well, and when we get into that, when people say offer, because we see it here, they walk into an apartment complex and just spray. Mm-hmm. That's not a cockroach service.
Yeah.
Like, I want to be clear on that. That is not going to do anything.
That's a good point, because to them it is.
And we just took over a building and a few restaurants in that building because a big pest control company, they were only spraying IGRs. Mm-hmm. That's it. That's all they were doing.
Yeah.
It's like, that's not a cockroach service.
No.
Like, you can't even put that on there. And that's what I would eliminate. I would be like, hey, you provide a cockroach service for what? Mm-hmm. And then what do you do? Oh, you do that for a Turkestan roach? Okay, that's just Turkestan stuff. Mm-hmm. So, like, what about German? Oh, we just spray. Okay, that's not a German cockroach treatment or service.
Yeah, it's not even a Band-Aid.
Yeah, but we'll get into some tips on why I say that. Okay. There's a reason why I'm saying what I'm saying.
Yeah.
And there's a guy who actually put out some tips, and we'll get into the tips later on in the episode of why I'm saying what I'm saying right now.
Nice.
So we'll get into that.
That's good. Next segment, more or less significant to your business. The question is, in the past 5 years, have cockroach control services become a more or less significant portion of your location's business? 34% more significant.
Yeah.
49% no change. 13% said less, and 3% said can't compare or not involved.
Yeah. I think that's naturally as your pest control, and this could be if they're asking new pest control companies as well, but as you start to grow your pest control company, I think naturally you start to get more comfortable in certain areas.
Sure.
And you start adding on more services. Just naturally. Hey, I'm really good at spraying houses. I'm going to start adding on more stuff to bring in more revenue. More of my clients are asking for specific, services. And so they want that. And so I think naturally you are going to bring on more.
Yeah.
So it would make sense why it is going up. And they're saying, yes, we provided more.
Sure.
Just over time, you see that. But you also see the reversal on that too. It'd be interesting to see in the last 5 years, did it go away? And you change how you ask that question. Mm-hmm. Because I've also seen it with a lot of the older companies and the guys that have like one-man shows, they've been around for 30 years. They start to eliminate specialty treatments.
Yeah.
And they start to go back to the easiest thing that they can do, and they want to get rid of it because it's a little bit more difficult. It's a little bit more work. It's more money, but they don't want to do it. They're lazy. Mm-hmm. They start to go back and revert to, hey, let's just spray.
Yeah.
Like we don't want to do anything else.
We're safe here.
Yeah. I don't want to take care of bed bugs anymore. When we took over, they used to do termites, and they just said, nope, we're good. Retire that. Mm-hmm. Don't even want the license. Don't want anything to do with it.
Yeah.
So very interesting on, how if they asked a different question, it would probably be opposite, is they declined in using that service. But just throwing that out there.
No, good point. Good point.
Yeah.
Next one. It's funny. Busiest season for cockroach services for your location. What season tends to be the busiest for providing cockroach control? In a massive lead at 60%, you have no seasonal difference.
Yeah.
13% late summer, 10% early summer, and it's a 3-way tie for spring or winter, spring, or fall.
Yeah.
At like 5%.
Once again, I jump back in it. I think it depends on who you ask, where, what location. But here, we talked a little bit about this before we jumped into the episode, but Turkestan cockroaches, summer, 100%.
Yeah.
Like, it's when they come out.
Yeah.
So summertime is when those guys are the worst. German cockroaches, I was telling you, I think our services skyrocket in the summer. And they actually go down in the winter. And that's because naturally homes are staying hotter in the summer because people aren't using their AC. You get certain ethnic groups that don't care for it. They never used it. They moved over. Foreigners, they don't care. I see it in my family.
Sure.
there's people I know, they don't turn it on. So naturally their house is 80, 85 degrees in the summer. And it's like
humid and hot. And
yeah, they'd never turn on the AC. And so you just have a perfect environment, for German cockroaches to explode.
Yeah.
And we see that with a lot of apartment complexes. And then you see that in the wintertime, they don't turn on their heater because they don't want to spend the money either.
Sure.
They're trying to save money, lower income too. And then you don't see a big spike because it's naturally colder in the house. People are just wearing jackets, sweaters, pants.
Yeah.
And they don't turn it on. And so then the cockroaches are really restricted, to that. Because if you guys ever have looked it up, and I have, insects are very temperamental when it comes to temperature.
Yeah.
So it's like, if you've ever seen it, this insect could, be an adult within 6 months to a year. And it's like, what do you mean 6 months to, that is 100% difference.
Yeah. It's huge difference.
Huge difference, but it's all based off of temperature. So the warmer it is or the perfect temperature, they could reproduce very quickly and get to an adult stage very, very quickly. And then others, it's because it's so cold, they don't. Their metabolism's slower to grow. So I think summer is actually the best time.
Okay.
What's your opinion on that?
Well, it depends on the pest. If it's German, whenever we're doing inspections.
So no seasonal change.
There we go. No seasonal change.
Okay.
I mean, I'm just thinking back to the past 3 months. We've had a ton of German cockroach services added on because we've been getting into these apartments and doing inspections,
But is that because the past company wasn't doing inspections?
Well, yes.
So, so there, I guess it is no season, but once we gain control, it'll be interesting to see, okay, are we naturally getting more one-offs, not off of inspections, but actually one-off?
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
That's true.
And that's why I say summer typically is we get a ton that roll in.
Yeah.
And then winter typically slows down a bit unless we're doing a ton of inspections. Then naturally it goes back up.
Yeah, it's hard. That's a good point because it's hard for me to tell right now because I'm swimming in it. We did an inspection on like an entire building yesterday at an apartment complex that had 12 units, and 1 unit did not have German roaches.
There was 11 that had them.
There's 11.
Holy crap!
And 1 did not, and it was the remodeled one. So
it probably does.
Yeah, it probably does. But
oh my gosh!
Yeah, the whole building does.
Dang. Okay, there you go.
Anyways,
no seasonal change.
No seasonal. So now we get into the actual controlling of the pest.
Yeah.
Primary cockroach control measure. What is your location's primary control measure for managing cockroaches in homes and or businesses? And we have, it goes different because the next section is protocol. So, before we dive into both. So this one, it's 45% said gel baits, 26 residual pesticides, 11 IGRs, 5% sanitation, 3% exterior perimeter treatments. And then granular baits, wall voids, glue traps, and no answer all tie for 1%. So a lot of
gel baits got the top?
45% gel baits.
You know what? I would love to know when they ask all of these questions to do a follow-up or a backup question to that. So 40 whatever percent is saying gel baits, but gel baits are combined with something or by itself, or, because we can say, well, yeah, we use gel baits too, but in what sense, depending on, what we're doing. But there's no way you're only using gel baits.
No. And that's actually why I preface that, in the next section, because I agree with you. And maybe they're saying, on average, let's say you have, no, even that doesn't make sense. I was going to try to break it down and throw them a bone with a gel bait.
We're going to start our own. We're going to start calling companies and actually technicians, and we're going to do our own, I guess, report.
Yeah, that's true.
We'll ask the questions. We're done letting them ask the questions.
Sure. DNA Magazine does sound pretty good.
Yeah, they.
So here we go. Typical cockroach control protocol. What's your location's protocol? 81% sprayable insecticides plus gel baits. 9% gel baits alone. 3% sprayable insecticides alone. And 7% other.
Yeah.
So that just kind of, you asked a really good question and that answered it. So majority of people, over 80%, are using sprayable insecticides plus gel bait as their protocol.
Yeah. Yeah, see, it goes back to what you're dealing with. I know it's just generalized cockroaches overall, but that would make me wonder because if you say, okay, well, you're treating a Turkestan cockroach, what are you using? I'm not using gel baits.
Mm-mm.
That's like the last thing I'm going to use.
Yeah,
They're outdoor cockroaches. So outdoor cockroaches, I'm using Niban, so it's a dry bait, but it's still a bait, but I'm using Niban. I'm using our other products like Bifin. If you wanted to throw in an IGR to hit a crack and crevice where you think they're hiding, that would be a great spot. I mean, I'm using different things. I'm not using gel baits though.
No.
But even in German cockroaches, I'm not using just gel baits and spraying.
No.
That's where I also say, like, what's your service?
Yeah.
Because that's not going to get rid of German cockroaches.
Mm-mm.
I don't care who you are. It doesn't work.
Yeah, not solely, no.
No. And I mean, we're not in a heavily infested skyscraper buildings downtown, insane amounts. Like, we're going into a residential house. If I sprayed and only used gel baits, now I can gain control. Eventually. It's just months down the road.
Yeah.
But you're not taking care of them quickly.
I understand what you're saying.
Yeah. So those are I'd like to know.
Mm-hmm.
I'd like to let us know. Send us a message.
Please do. Because some of this stuff we need some clarification on, like the 3%ers and all the weird stuff.
Yeah.
Now, next portion. Do you rotate baits? Is it in your location's practice to rotate cockroach baits? There's a big green thumbs up with 87%, and then a red thumbs down with 12%, and then a yellow button that says, I don't know, 1%. And then goes down to, if yes, how often? So we'll break this down a little bit. 42% said quarterly, so every 3 months. 22% said every 6 months. 7% said annually. And 4% said less often than annually. And then 23% said more often than quarterly. So that kind of went different. So majority are doing it about every 3 months if they are rotating bait.
Yeah. See, that is another great one I would love to know is, when did all of these chemical companies come out with the beta version, the rotation system, everything like that? And then when did they do that study? Because recently there has been a lot of chemical companies that talk about their beta version, rotations, everything like that, because I think they're trying to make, how can we get more sales?
Yeah.
It's the same active ingredient. It's the same everything. It's just the inert ingredients change.
Yeah.
So the taste is different, but everything else is the same.
Sure.
I mean, they just got to change the label a little bit. So the expense side of it is nothing, but the gain that they get from people buying rotational baits skyrockets.
Yeah.
Now, I do believe that there is beta version, but we talked about it. Why would I rotate a bait at a residential home that I get rid of within a month and a half?
There's no point.
They're all dead.
Mm-hmm.
They bring in a new... if they bring in another cockroach, they're bringing in a whole nother family of cockroaches that have never even tasted this bait before.
Sure.
So I don't know. I mean, I don't see the purpose of rotating bait as often as they should have asked, how often do you rotate your pesticide active ingredient?
That's what I was going to hit on.
Oh, okay.
Because bait doesn't make any sense at all. Yeah, I mean, we kind of talked about some crazy outlier situations where it'd make the most sense without making sense. But like, yeah, I get it. If you're just spraying, outside of IGRs and they start building up like a resistance to whatever chemical compound that you're using for your program, and you're doing it over and over and over again, it makes no sense. Like, of course you want to switch out your pesticide, but if you're doing a cockroach control program on like a residential home, like you said, and we gain control in 4 to 6 weeks or even less than that, why the hell would you rotate it? Why would you add more steps? And
I don't know.
Does it sounds good? Because it sounds like you know what you're doing.
Well, I'll give you a great example. I think it's, you went out to this apartment complex, you inspected the building. 11 of the 12 units were actually
12 out of 12. But
12 out of 12, most likely. Let's say we go out there and we start treating, and we're baiting and we're spraying, we're doing our cockroach treatment that we do. And after the 3 treatments that we do, there's still some that are straggling because they weren't prepared all the way. They didn't want to leave. They didn't allow us to treat. In that case, I would say yes. Bait rotation is necessary because now we're starting to creep into the 2-month, the 3-month mark on treatments in this specific building. Meaning we're not getting rid of generations. We're just creating resistant cockroaches now. That's when we need to rotate chemicals. We need to rotate baits. We need to change it up.
Yeah.
But that's it. If I'm going into a residential house, I'm not just going to rotate my bait out of nowhere. Every 3 months. I'm not just going to say, okay, we're done with this one. We're bringing in a new one.
Yeah.
I think it's a lot of the chemical companies pushing money.
Yeah.
Yeah,
well, it makes sense if you're a manufacturing company and you have one bait and you have an alternate option. Just, imagine you're like a new PMP or you're a new, pest control owner. You should know this beforehand, but you're dealing with a manufacturer. You get your cockroach baits for them. You get approached saying, hey, every 3 months when they start to build a resistance or when things aren't going well, this is what you need to do to switch it up. And then you can come back and get more of this stuff. Oh, also for pesticides, this is what you got to do to switch it up and they build resistance. And you're just like, oh, okay, you just got to keep switching it up, because it sounds good.
Yeah.
Without too much digging, it makes sense if you're not really paying attention,
Yeah. Well, I always give the example of Alpine WSG.
What about
their rep came in and sold it. I mean, he was just killing it. Miracle chemical. Only thing you ever need to use. Only thing ever. Get rid of everything else in your chem box. This is like the only thing you got to carry. German cockroaches. Oh, dude, easy. 30 grams. Throw it in P&G. Spray it everywhere. Good to go. Gone. You'll get rid of them. Promise. And
Shit.
well, but that's the technician's dream.
Oh, I see. It sounds so good to the technician.
Of course.
Yeah.
You tell me I just have to put this little thing inside this gallon thing and spray it everywhere.
And I'm the hero.
And it's going to just work.
Yeah.
Oh, dude, you just made my job super easy. I'll be in and out of houses in 10 minutes, maybe. I'll have to walk extra slow to act like I'm actually doing something.
With 0 callbacks.
With 0 callbacks. This guy's promising the world.
Yeah.
Too good to be true. And it was, because I went in behind a guy that worked, here before I owned it, but he worked there and he was doing these apartment complexes and he was only spraying Alpine and it didn't work.
Yeah. It'll help.
No, it killed the ton.
It'll help, yeah.
Well, because we were using other products. So you're bringing in a whole new active ingredient. It's going to wipe them out, a good majority of them. The problem is they have bounce back. They're going to come back. You're not going to kill them all. It doesn't work that way.
Not with Alpine.
No. Well, not with any product.
Yeah. You're
not going to have a miracle product that kills them all. You're going to have to do something extra.
Sure.
And we'll get it. Goes back to the tips. Once we get into the tips, this guy did a really good job, but he'll explain exactly why you need to do more than just spray and pray.
Agreed.
But I think that's what it is.
Yeah.
I don't think bait aversion we see very often or too much in our industry. And real quick for those who don't know what bait aversion is, because I do.
Thank you.
Yeah, I do want to make that clear. Bait aversion is when a cockroach is now sick of the taste of the bait. Okay. A guy in an article actually explained it very, very well. Is a female could be, I guess they would not like sugary substances.
Sure.
And if there's the sugar ingredient inside of your bait gel, right, that you're using, then the female wouldn't go eat it. and then they're going to pass that taste on to their offspring.
Yeah.
So they're going to start passing that taste on to the offspring, which then the offspring don't like the sugary bait. So now your bait is, obsolete. Mm-hmm. So now you're just putting out a bait that they're not even going for.
Right.
But that's something that you need to monitor just in general. Should you have different types of baits? Absolutely.
Yeah, you should.
I don't disagree with that I will never disagree with that. Do I think you're seeing beta version every quarter on a whole company-wide basis?
Doubt it.
No, I would, depending on your area, I think it is possible, but I'm going to go on the side of
probably not.
No way. There's no way. We've been getting rid of cockroaches with the exact same chemicals, the exact same way, and eliminating them 100% with the same products for 6 years?
Yeah.
7 years?
Yeah.
Right? It's kind of weird.
Yeah. It is.
So I think some of those studies, when they asked, it's what was the manufacturer pushing at that time and what is everybody pushing at that time?
Yeah.
I've told this to a ton of guys who go to classes and who see these things, read these reports, even to the listeners. Don't take this report and say, this is law. This is what's going on. This is just kind of industry, well, not even industry wide, 172 people wide, could be 5 people from the same company. But over those 172 people, where are they? What are they dealing with? Because that's all going to be such a huge factor. What area? What's the temperature like? There's so many factors there, but also, what did they just go do? Because we had a guy, we went to Pest World, we went to a rodent class, and this guy from New York's like, rodents, they won't go after traps. You have to preset all your traps. You got to do this. You got to do that. I mean, he went on and on and on. And we left. And I'm like, hey, just be careful, dude. I know what he said, but we don't live in New York.
Yeah.
We're not New York. We're in California. We're in like residential rural areas that do not have a massive amount of rats running around on the streets, getting into garbage, anything like that. I'm like, hey, they don't even know what a trap is.
Yeah.
I could place a trap in the middle of the street and I'd probably catch a rat.
Yeah.
Like they have no idea, and we're not dealing with rodents that have been in that for so long.
Yeah.
Like New York and these big buildings. But he took it as that's what it is.
Yeah.
Right. This is what we have to do. Like our rats are never going to get trapped ever again. It's like, what we just caught dozens prior to this class.
So that's true. It really does depend.
It does. So you have to be careful on the information that you're getting, and does it apply directly to you? Like even for me, I'm saying summer makes total sense why we see more cockroaches, Turkestan cockroaches and German cockroaches, in my opinion, here. Hey, you go somewhere else, it could be no, we don't even see those roaches, or we don't even
reversed.
Yeah. Or you have a company that's only residential and they could be like, no, we don't do German cockroaches at all. I don't even know what one looks like.
Never seen it.
Yeah, but it's just, where are you?
Yeah.
What's going on? Does it apply to you? Does it not apply to you? And then when you cover so many different cockroaches and you're like, hey, spray and gel. Well, for what cockroach?
Yeah.
It is going to vary. It's not the same. I don't treat each cockroach the exact same.
I'm glad. It's good.
Right?
Yeah.
Like, I hope everybody doesn't.
Yeah.
But anyway, that's... Just be careful what you hear from this and actually applying it to what you're doing today. Or even if you're a route tech, you're running around, you're listening to this right now, don't go to your manager and say, hey, we got to change this entire program.
Yeah.
Companies are doing quarterly rotations on baits.
Yeah.
Like, don't do that. Like take it as this is what companies are doing, and they may do that because they're in a skyscraper building. They can't get rid of cockroaches. They're only baiting for cockroaches. Like we just said, there's a big company that's only using an IGR. Okay, well, they may not build a resistance to the IGR, but if they were using the same active ingredient with an actual insecticide,
which I guarantee they are.
Yeah, now we need to know that because we need to use a different type of product.
Correct.
Or we need to use a synergist. We need to use something different, to kind of offset what that person just did. But that's what I mean when you see some of these things, and I hear some of that, as I say, okay, that's good to remember right now, because when I run into a situation where my bait's no longer effective, I can say, hey, I know what beta version is.
Yeah.
I know what I need to do to change it. And I have mentioned this in a different podcast, but this was another thing that people don't understand. When you get beta version or even resistance to chemical, remember, with beta version, you're going to look at inert ingredients. Does this have the same taste? Is it protein based? Is it sugar based as the next bait over?
Yeah.
Because if you get two really sugary baits, well, yeah, it's a different brand, but it's not going to work.
Yeah, not at all.
But that's the same thing with a chemical resistant cockroach. You go and get the same exact active ingredients, but it's different names, brand names. You're not going to get the kill. So you have to remember that on the backside is, okay, well, I'm going to go from Bifin to Masterline. Well, Bifin and Masterline are the same. It's the exact same product, same active ingredients. You're just changing name brands, right?
Thinking you're doing everything great.
Thinking you're doing something different, where you need to go and actually change that active ingredient completely, and then you're going to start to see that change because they don't have a resistance to that active ingredient.
Yeah.
So that's just a quick tip on top of these ones that I'm going to read.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay, so this one, I'm going to give this man all the credit because, and I wanted to show this too. Before we get into the quick 10 tips on this, which I thought was really good, is in the PCT Magazine, which is awesome. But MGK came out with some stuff, and you can see it here. They have a little fold out for everything, and it's big, so I'll cover me up here. So you have like hot spots, and they have a whole QR code down on this side that you can scan and get training videos on how to treat German cockroaches. So as much as these chemical companies want to sell their product, and of course they want to push their product, they're going to do everything to build as much value in themselves as possible, and that is going to be how to treat. So those are really cool things that you can go in. You don't know how to treat German cockroaches, or you think you have, I've been spraying and using gel bait, like
doing great.
I'm doing great. There's probably more stuff you can do to get better control and quicker control. Those are always good references. There's a ton of stuff in there that does it, but it's really awesome if you can do it that way. Did you see that?
Yeah, what was?
I don't know what that was. I hope.
Time.
We're out of time. I don't know what that was. That was very interesting. So if it comes out on the video, you guys will see it. If you don't, we'll let you guess what that was, because I don't know. But this guy is from Stoy Hedges. He's an entomologist, and he's giving 10 tips to deal with German cockroaches in commercial accounts.
Let's hear him.
All right. So tip 1 is German cockroach females carry and protect their ootheca, so the egg sacs, until right before nymphs hatch. Okay, so if you did not know that, you'll typically see the female cockroach, which is about big, and then they'll have an egg sac, which is almost the same size as the actual female body. That egg sac is carried with them, and this is why they reproduce so quickly. Their offspring typically live and thrive afterwards, is because they're protecting that egg sac all the way up until it's ready to hatch.
Sure.
When you see that thing detached, be careful.
Yep.
They're going to hatch within 24 to 48 hours.
Yep.
It's done, right? So you want to pay attention to that. And that's good information to know, because you may say, well, that's stupid. Why do you even care? Yeah. Because if you see an egg sac that hasn't been hatched yet or not open, it's about to.
Yeah.
Get rid of it. Vacuum it up. Use exclusion. Do more than just spraying, because that's not going to kill these things.
Yeah.
You're going to have a resurgence of cockroaches in a property if you're seeing these things. So it's always good to know that information. Tip 2 is German cockroaches breed faster than any other pest cockroach. Now, this is what I said I was going to go to, and there was some rhyme to the reason, or reason to the rhyme, or whatever the saying is, of what I was saying. you need, and this is not the first time I've heard this actually. So this is I've heard it in classes at Pest World. I've had it in classes at other places too.
Yeah.
And they say you need to remove/kill 98 to 100% of population within the first month to attain elimination. Otherwise, they simply repopulate through their high reproductive potential. Now, I heard it a little bit different. I heard you need to have a 90% control off of your first treatment, or you are not going to gain control. So how true that is, I don't know. But we try to kill as many as we can on the first one.
And that's what I mean. Like when I hear that, it's like, yeah, that makes sense because we do it normally. I feel like, you know?
Yeah, I think it just goes back down to protocol. If you're doing it, perfect. If you're not, try it. Make sure you are gaining that control.
Yeah.
But the big thing is it's the resistance, because they start having their offspring. Well, once their offspring are resistant to that chemical and you didn't kill enough of them, you're going to have a resistant offspring that now you have to switch up products.
Yeah.
You know, and then by then PMPs don't understand that, and they use the same method, but just with a new active ingredient, and they never actually get rid of them. They're just building up this monster cockroach that's resistant to everything. Tip 3 is cockroaches spend most of their time hiding in cracks and voids. So pest professionals should be using products designed mostly for crack and crevice and void treatments rather than formulations that are applied to exposed surfaces. It is far more effective to kill cockroaches in their harborages than to hope they pick up lethal dose while crawling around. Very, very true.
Very true.
So, I don't know what your cockroach protocol is or German cockroach treatment is, but ours is very particular to where they are, and using quite a few different types of products and processes to monitor where the population is, where it sits, to guarantee, that they're gone. Now it seems like it's a pretty easy process, but if we broke it down, it is pretty intense.
Sure.
But we just have it down now. Tip 4 is German cockroaches travel only as far from harborages as they need to find food and water. God, it sounds like people.
Yeah. It's interesting how they worded that.
Yeah. So they tend to hide close to areas that provide both. Typically, if a German cockroach is seen on equipment or a wall, its harborage will be within 10 to 12 feet of that site. Very good information. Because if you're seeing or you're placing glue boards, that's something we do, guys. Hint, hint. Probably use it. We place glue boards everywhere in an apartment or a home or whatever. And we're seeing where those glue boards are getting the most activity, because where that glue board's getting the most activity is where we need to go and focus our treatments.
Correct.
By a refrigerator, well, they're probably staying close, right? So that is a good tip. I never thought of it that way, and how they worded it was good, but remember that.
Yeah, it's good.
Number 5 is overpopulation and inadequate cockroach control efforts often move cockroaches to seek less advantageous harborages. For example, false ceilings are not an ideal site for cockroaches, but they might be found there when forced to go there. Okay. Have you ever heard of like a fogger or a bug bomb? That's what happens. They set off a bug bomb. They go into areas they normally wouldn't, but it's because they're forced to. So you're like, why is a German cockroach in a random closet in a room? That's probably because they started spraying their own chemicals. They use Raid. It stinks. And so the cockroaches are just scurrying and running away.
Yeah.
So that's another one to remember.
On that note,
Yeah.
the complex that we were just talking about with the 11 or 12 out of 12, we did a building, about a couple weeks ago. And one of the residents, when we were getting ready to get set up, she had like this little bag of like those little hot shot little bug bomb. She was like, oh, I bought these for you guys. If you can just set them off before you leave. And I'm like, no, we're not doing that. Like, we can't do that. She's like, no, it's like, if you don't do it, I'm going to do it. I'm like, no, don't do that.
Yeah, take this back now.
Like, don't do that. You have the receipt. Take it back. So it was like sitting there having to educate the customer why it would royally destroy everything we're doing here. but it's so true.
Yeah.
It's like we're trying to get in these cracks and crevices, the process that we're doing, and you're just going to disrupt everything and just push them everywhere for no rhyme or reason,
Yeah, most people don't understand that. But yeah, absolutely. Tip 6 is German cockroaches are fond of electrical junction boxes and use conduits to move between areas. Cockroaches found on one floor of a facility have been traced to another floor using electrical conduits and wiring for plumbing lines. Or plumbing lines. Which is another good point. That's good. Why, gosh, I'm giving you guys all the good stuff. Hint, write it down, whatever you guys want to do. Dusting is huge. Wall voids, electrical, around pipes. It saves you.
Yeah.
So anyway, tip 7, wall voids are commonly one site that goes untreated, which can lead to continued German cockroach infestations. Typically, those walls where moisture availability is higher and where plumbing pipes penetrate into voids should be targeted for periodic treatment when cockroaches are known in an area. Once again, dust, glue boards, dust, or exclusion. Caulk up the round piping, things like that. Tip number 8, incoming supplies should be spot checked for possible cockroach introductions. This is now, once again, he did say that this was for commercial. So yes, at a home, you're not going to be inspecting all incoming items, most likely. But in a commercial setting, they should inspect the boxes. They should see what's coming in.
Yeah.
But I will say, I don't think that is a big cause, at least in my commercial experience, that they were introduced through a box. I think they were actually introduced through an employee, which is one of the tips. And the next one on here is tip number 9. Employee locker rooms can be a source for cockroach introduction.
Oh, yeah.
Which I agree with 100%. You get someone who's infested from an apartment complex or a home, and they bring their giant person or backpack and they put it in their locker. And what happens? The cockroaches start to come out and they're in food heaven.
They work at a restaurant. It's done.
They have everything they need and they just reintroduced it. That's actually a big one. I think we just did a restaurant out in the middle of nowhere. They're like, how did we get them? And we're like, well, you could have probably had a bum come in, depending on what they had on them or what they have. They have a bunch of, stuff, or an employee that has them who came in, and you have lockers set up for them to put their items in, and they put their stuff in that locker. Well, cockroach can come out. It's not going to sit there forever.
Yeah.
Got to eat.
Yeah.
So it's going to naturally come out, and now you got cockroaches in the restaurant.
Oh, yeah. The apartment complex that had the lady bring in a mini fridge that was sitting by the dumpster and wondered why her house got infested, and she's never had issues in her whole life and refused to get rid of that fridge. So that was fun.
That is exactly correct. That is another big one. And tip number 10, and the last tip, is going to be when an infestation persists, it is usually because one or more active harborages are being overlooked. Have cockroaches been pushed into perimeter areas such as ceilings? Have key wall voids been checked and treated? Are cockroaches breeding beneath the slab floor? Are they infiltrating from pipe chassis, crawl spaces, or basements? These are other questions. These and other questions should be asked and investigated until the sources is found. That goes back to IPM. So if you guys are using the IPM program, that is exactly what you need to do, and you need to check. I've had it in my experience in an apartment complex. I've treated. And I'm like, what is going on? Cabinets. Most cabinets actually have a gap underneath, if you guys have ever seen it, and it will just be all the way up to the ceiling.
Oh, yeah. So underneath, on the top.
Yep. So you'll have your cabinets, your sink here, you got cabinets above it or whatever. And underneath that, where they've attached it, there's usually quarter-inch gap, maybe, sometimes even wider, depending on if it's like in a corner. Then you'll get even a massive gap. And that's the one area I missed. I did not hit that area. I hit it and they just poured out. So they were all forced to that singular area where there was no chemicals.
Oh yeah.
And they weren't necessarily thriving, but they stayed alive until I hit that area.
Done.
Yeah. Oh yeah. And then I just destroyed them at that point. But that was one of those things that you do have to pay attention to. And that's where, once again, guys, hint, tip 11, glue boards.
Yes.
Use glue boards because that tells you where they are and where you need to really look. Because if you don't put anything down, you can't monitor. And they're like, yeah, we're still seeing them. And it's like, okay, well, do I just go everywhere? Do I search everywhere? And you may have to if you don't put glue boards out.
That's true. That's true. Also, if they're seeing them in the kitchen or bathroom, they can get really specific with that. And a lot of things can get mistranslated on the interview part of IPM.
Oh,
you know?
Yeah, I can see that.
But yes, this was PCT Cockroach Report. I think this was for the end of last year when this actually came out. So you guys heard some stuff that you agree, disagree with, let us know. I mean, like Daniel was saying earlier, we take all these reports at like face value because who knows what situation or what level that company's in or what their programs look like. So, we kind of shared some of our tips. We'd love to hear some of yours, what's worked, what hasn't worked, what kind of brings us into the next point, saying thank you for listening or watching us now. I mean, we've just had this video up for a few weeks now. So I feel like we're getting a little bit better at it. It's been a lot of fun, at least with the pest guests. So if you do like the content we're putting out, please like, share, leave us a review on whatever platform you're listening to us on. Follow us on our social media, whether it's Instagram, YouTube, our Facebook group, also our website. It's a great place to go and look on how to be a guest, learn a little bit more about us, meet the team. We have episodes that come out every Monday and Thursday. But thank you again for listening to the DNA Pest Control Podcast.